Michaela Chester with Cat Osterman, a Texas legend. Cat, I'm going to have you take me through the 2005 game against Arizona. In that elimination game, you had 19 strikeouts. Can you take me through that entire game? What you remember, your emotions, the whole thing?
Um, well, obviously, the game before was against Michigan, and I just remember, I don't remember much about it other than after like 2 innings, I didn't pitch very well. And so I know I had gotten pulled during that game, but we had played Arizona enough in my career. And don't get me wrong, been on both sides, winning and losing, but I felt confident against an Arizona team, mainly because they were lefty loaded. And Coach Kendra told me quite often when we would see him that he had too many lefties if we ever had to play together, play against each other. So, but I just knew there was just no way in my mind that we were losing this game. I was going to do everything possible to keep us in the game. And so I know it started, we were visitors, which not always what I like as a pitcher. You'd rather be home. But I think it started with the fact that Arizona didn't start Alicia Hollowell. And I know all of us kind of were like, what? Like we were completely ready to face Hollowell and knew that that would be a tough game. So they start Leslie Wolf, which I think gave us some excitement, although as you go through the first couple innings, we don't score off of her. So it was just still a nail biter. And then they end up putting Alicia Hollowell in. And I know that's when it was like, for me, I was like, okay, now I really have to buckle down because runs are going to be few and far between the two of us. And, again, we'd played them so often. I knew the key is if you can keep Autumn Champion and Caitlin Lowe off the bases. So early on, did that pretty well. I think, obviously, the one thing I completely remember, it was freaking hot. I mean, I'm talking, it had to be 100 degrees. I think after like the 5th inning, my jersey was like the darkest color burnt orange it could have been because it was so hot and we were sweating so bad. But I mean, I don't remember a lot in the middle of the game just because I feel like I say it was uneventful, but it was just, people kept both sides just got a few hits here and there. I know there are a few innings towards the end I start to walk people, which is like not my normal thing. And for me, I think you see it on my face. I just get frustrated that I'm walking people and I don't know why. The one other thing I do notice about this, I'm chewing gum and I never did that. So I have no clue who let me go out on the mound with gum because I'm like chomping on it. I see that. I'm always like, I don't know why. Who let me do that? But I remember we had a few scoring opportunities that just didn't come to fruition. And I think as the game goes on, you see my face in the dugout start to kind of, I wasn't into the cheering. I was more trying to just stay focused because the game was getting long. It was hot. I knew I had like business to take care of. Usually I can start to feel when I'm struggling, whether it's physically or mentally. So I use those moments in the dugout to kind of regroup. So there's a lot of times they show my face and I'm just very focused and it almost looks like I'm staring off into the space, but I'm probably found a blade of grass that I'm staring at and talking. Or I'm down at the far end talking with our trainer. And usually that was just talking about how my body's feeling or if I'm getting enough to drink or eat or whatever. Because I'm not, if I'm pitching, I'm not really a snacker. Even if we have snacks in the dugout, I'm not usually eating in the middle of the game. So he would check in to make sure that I was still fueled so I could keep going. There is one point in this game I remember, and I don't know where it is, but Christy Fox comes up to bat. I think it's the bat she walks, actually. But I threw a backdoor curve, and the ump called it a strike, and I think she disagreed, and her and my catcher kind of got into it. It was funny at the time, but she ends up walking because I try to throw that same pitch again, and it doesn't work. I think it was just a battle over and over. Obviously, if you watch, I used a mix of everything. And as the game goes on, had to kind of start changing the game plan just a little bit to continue to be successful ourselves. I used a little bit more rise balls. Oh yeah, there's the rise ball to Jackie Coburn. She flies it out. That's in the 7th. So I started using the rise ball more in the 7th. I threw it a couple other times in the game. It just, I was known as a down ball pitcher. So anytime you can kind of mix it up and get their minds guessing, it helps. I know offensively, every time we went in, I started pressing a little bit and be like, let's go, figure it out. And that wasn't abnormal. My team kind of had gotten used to it by that point.
And then I'll give you a second to pull up that your 19th strikeout of the game. Take me through that pitch that you threw, your decision to throw that exact pitch, and then the celebration that came shortly after.
Yeah, well, what I will say is I don't remember walking the bases loaded or giving up a hit and then walking 2 or whatever I did. I honestly thought there were no people on base for a while. That's what I've thought about with this out. So I'll preface with, this is like the most iconic picture I think Texas uses is the celebration, like the fist pump in the massive squat. And it's by far my favorite picture and probably memory at the World Series and in a uniform. But I don't remember bases being loaded at all. This whole time I thought maybe there was a runner on first, not bases loaded. So I don't remember who's batting. I think it might be Jen Martinez. I could be wrong. But their righties were struggling both down and in and a backdoor curve. And Megan and I were calling our own game at this point. And she had just said, anytime we're in a tough spot, we're going to go backdoor curve. It's working. They're not hitting it. The likelihood at this point of anyone really pulling it was slim because I was throwing it so far outside. And so Megan and I were always on the same page. So we throw this pitch, and it actually starts way off the plate. And I just remember when she swung, I just went, yes, like finally. Like as much as I scream, the squat and the fist pump are because holy cow, the game is finally over. Not so much like, oh, it's the 19th strikeout. I didn't know how many I had at that point. But that game had become such a battle that I was waiting for it to be over. Like I was waiting for us to score so that way it could be over. And so that last pitch is probably the one in my career that I delivered. And as soon as there was a swing, it was like the biggest relief and excitement all at the same time, because we quickly had to go back to the hotel and shower and get ready to play UCLA.
All right. Thanks so much for breaking that one down for me, Kat. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.